All right, welcome back to the Peak Arkansas podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Joseph Fincher. And today, our featured state park and peak we're going to view from is Lake Ouachita State Park, especially Hickory Nut Mountain viewing area. And I know there are other areas for people out there who know the park pretty well. I chose Hickory Nut Mountain viewing area because it is easily accessible. In fact, you can just drive right up to it. To begin, I think starting at the history of the park, thinking back to a more wild time. Picture this in your mind while viewing out on the water from the uh, Hickory Nut Mountain viewing spot. Think about like before there was a lake there, and what it would have been like in the valleys there, because Blakely Mountain Dam that formed the lake wasn't built till 1953, and so let's think back, several thousand years, or at least back to like 1000 AD, when the Choctaw, actually the Caddo Nation, used to live in this area, and the evidence for their beautiful lifestyle from back in their day, they left us some evidence and some clues and the marks they left on the land, such as the quartz arrowheads they left behind, as well as their version of like fishing weights for their nets back then, which is pretty cool in my opinion. While there were other tribes such as the Osage and the Choctaw present, around the beginning of the early 1800s, white settlers started coming into the area and creating settlements like Buckville, which, funny enough, was later submerged in Lake Ouachita after Blakely Mountain Dam was construction and functional. But let that soak in for a minute of all the culture that was just pretty much lost after the Trail of Tears began, and the original residents of the Ouachita valleys they were forcibly removed, and so I think it's an important part to remember. A very sad part, but definitely still part of the history still. And so now, fast forward to 1956, where pretty much our modern day Lake Ouachita comes from, the opening of the dam. The scenery is, when you look around the lake today, it is just, in my opinion, it's beautiful, and I'm sure pretty much everybody would agree with that statement. And for good reason. It is considered one of the cleaner lakes in America, and it's the biggest lake in Arkansas. And a crazy thing is that it has like over 900 miles of shoreline, and on that shoreline there some beautiful features like faulted, metamorphosed rocks from the pretty much the living geology from around the area in these mountains. One of the best ways I have personally found to experience the resource of Lake Ouachita Lake and State Park is to actually be out on the lake myself, and to soak up the scenery around me, because I think you can listen to this podcast, and hopefully you enjoy listening to it, but there's just nothing like experiencing the resource firsthand, and I would say taking there's the state park offers bald eagle sighting tours where you can see bald eagles on the lake, and they take you out on this little mini barge or slash pontoon boat, and it's just you're out on the water looking for eagles, but then you see so much more. Like you might see a deer on the shoreline on an afternoon stroll, getting him a sip of water or something like that. That would be my recommendation or unofficial homework for this podcast episode is to go and do the Eagle Tour. And make sure you bring a snack or a drink because you will be out there for at least an hour, hour and a half. Yeah, well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Peak Arkansas. Next week next episode, I'll be featuring Pinnacle Mountain State Park. And once again, have a great afternoon and or whatever time of day it is for you. And I'll see you next episode.